is the WrestleBread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee here, and this is episode 32 of the WrestleBread Podcast. So I wasn't on last week because I was a little sick, and I didn't want to be one of those people that tried to do a podcast and, you can hear in my voice, it's like, I didn't want to do that to your ears. So I decided to take the week off, and now I am back. And it was a lot that has happened these past 2 weeks. First off, The Fiend has his own belt that is in the WWE shop for $6,500. And when I first heard that price, I was sitting there like, look, for $6,500, I better get, the eyes on the title belt moving around, following me across the room, the Fiend to pop up like Pennywise, telling me to let him in, some free lessons at the Wyatt Gym, a Q&A session with the puppets of the Firefly Funhouse, a sit down and a therapy session with Bray Wyatt from the Firefly Funhouse, and, my own mask from Tom Savini, and they would still owe me money, cause for $6,500, that's a heck of a lot of money. But then again, I was sitting there like, if I had $65, just lying around in my Swiss bank account offshore somewhere, I probably would get the belt. It is made by Tom Savini, who, of course, the studio that is behind a lot of the horror masks, especially with Friday the 13th as well. I can understand why it would cost so much, but, no, not for $6,500. But congratulations to Bray Wyatt. He is the #1 merchandise seller on the WWE shop right now. He has beaten out Becky Lynch now. So kudos to him for making that money. And it seems like from the events that has happened this week that we may possibly get Bray Wyatt and The Fiend on the same show. Who knows what exactly is going to happen. We also had a little bit of a love connection going on Twitter between Dana Brooke and Batista. I thought it was, I commend Dana Brooke for shooting her shot, I thought she would slide into the DMs, but she instead just tweeted it out there and let the whole world know that, hey, she's gonna try to get hers, I guess. It all started with Batista announcing that he is single again. And then from there, people started tweeting at Dana Brooke because they were remembering, as she talked about it on the episode of WWE's The Bump, that apparently there was an episode of Ride Along where I guess she was trying to get a date or something like that and was getting turned down. And people was remembering that episode and started to tweet at her that Batista is single again. And then from there, everything kind of blossomed. So it seems like, I believe she mentioned when WrestleMania comes to Tampa, she's going to work out with him or something like that. I'm not quite sure the date of when they're supposed to meet up, but I do remember seeing that WrestleMania is going to be in Tampa, and they're definitely going to be meeting up around that time. Also, WWE has released a few superstars. I think it was today, Sunday. Sin Cara, The Ascension, and Luke Harper. I'm very happy for Luke Harper that he finally got the release that he asked for. Same with Sin Cara. They felt as though they weren't being used in a proper way. And with Luke Harper, they actually added time to his contract. His contract was actually supposed to expire, and I believe it's April or May. And Sin Cara as well both went to Twitter to announce their, that they had requests for their release, and they were granted those release. So best of luck to Luke Harper, who had recently trademarked his old wrestling name, Brody Lee, and best of luck to Sin Cara as well. The Ascension, I'm surprised at because I didn't know they were still on the roster. I don't remember the last time they had a match, probably in the, no, they weren't even in Saudi Arabia, I don't think. Probably the Battle Royal back in WrestleMania, I believe, was the last time I saw them. They may have had a match or two after that, but I highly doubt it. I don't really remember it as well. Another piece of news, speaking of releases, ACH, formerly known as Jordan Miles, has announced that he is quitting pro wrestling. We all remember that big incident with his t-shirt design, him calling out Triple H and Vince McMahon through Twitter about his t-shirt design. Requested to be released by WWE. He was released by WWE, and he went over to, I believe it's MLW Wrestling, and was supposed to have a match. I believe it was this past Friday, or it may have been the Friday before Thanksgiving. If what I read, the rumor is that he didn't even, either didn't show up for the match, or he did show up and was just very difficult to work with, but he didn't wrestle at all, apparently, for that match. And on Friday, he announced that he is, actually it was Saturday, he announced that he is done with wrestling. And he, of course, said this on Twitter, and I quote, "I hate pro wrestling." I should play some sad music, but I'm not going to. "I hate pro wrestling. I hate you shitty fans." He spelled shitty wrong. "I hate you shitty fans that think you know it all. More importantly, I hate the snakes in this industry. None of y'all would never say anything about me to me. All of y'all can go screw yourselves. I'm canceling my shows and I'm quitting pro wrestling. Chasing my dream was great, but you self-entitled pricks ruined everything. I'm out." And I say, best of luck to you in your future endeavors. I feel like this is some type of mental issue that's going on, because I feel like these are like possibly cries for help, because, I don't know. This whole thing is so messy, and I had a feeling of that, things would possibly get worse with him leaving WWE and going to a different promotion, especially if there was an ounce of reluctance or anything like that with whoever he went with as well. But yeah, ACH quitting pro wrestling. Shad from Crime Time had also spoke out about what ACH said, pretty much told him to shut the hell up. And, you're out, and basically social media is what it is. People are going to say things about you, and you need to have tough skin to deal with everything. And I kind of agree. You kind of have to have tough skin if you're going to be, dealing with the public, being a celebrity, things like that. I don't know what ACH is going to do after this. Who knows? Maybe he'll go back to wrestling eventually. But if there's he needs help or something like that, I really hope he gets whatever help he's looking for. So another new rumor that was released, this was released by Wrestling Observer Radio. The rumor is that the reason why we haven't heard any matches with the TLC pay-per-view that is coming up next Sunday is because Vince McMahon feels as though that all of these signups for the WWE Network happens the day before the event. So they're going to wait till last minute, just like they did with Hell in a Cell, and release announce more matches around that time. Which, especially for people who do podcasts, I know there is pro wrestling scorecards as well, who kind of rely on hearing the matches being announced ahead of time so we can give predictions and analysis and things like that. So for WWE to sit there and wait until last minute to announce matches kind of screws up all of us, because, we look forward to doing prediction shows. We look forward to breaking down what could possibly happen to a pay-per-view. And you can't do that if a match is going to be announced literally 2 hours before the show. And also it doesn't make sense too, because if you're trying to get people to sign up for the event, maybe you should let them know ahead of time, especially with people who do watch parties. Just in general, if someone, I mean, it's not like WWE pay-per-views are like 2 hours long. We're talking about like a half a day worth of wrestling that people have to be prepared for. So I feel like they should at least announce the matches a week out so that everyone can hear about it. There's some type of build, of course, because now that they're waiting till last minute to announce matches, these are matches that's going to be kind of thrown together and not really make any type of sense. There's really not going to be that much of a storyline because these matches are kind of thrown together last minute. On to AEW. They don't have a pay-per-view coming up this month. But Chris Jericho, first of all, had announced that he has released his own bubbly. He announced this 2 weeks ago. And I believe he sold 10,000 bottles in the first 2 days, which is amazing, first off. A lot of things coming up this week for AEW Dynamite as well. We have, I believe this week is Chris Jericho versus Jungle Boy. And we also have Joey Janela versus Moxley. I believe that was last week. Joey Janela versus Moxley. But going over the things that happened this week, wasn't really that good of a week for wrestling. NXT was pretty good, of course. The ratings did come out for this week's Wednesday Night Wars, and NXT had, I believe NXT beat out AEW by like 30,000 people. So actually AEW Dynamite won this week. The viewership was 851,000 to 845,000. And now there's these, because AEW had lost 2 weeks in a row and now they're winning. Now all of the stands of both companies are coming out of the woodworks with all these reasons. And there is a theory, I know it's not by the majority of hardcore AEW fans, but there's this slight theory that the reason why AEW is more popular is because AEW is more for a younger crowd. Because of course AEW lost the ratings for the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and people were saying the reason that happened is because the viewers of AEW are younger and therefore went out to go drinking, whereas though people who watch NXT are a little older and stay at home or something like that. And it's like, no, they both do the 18 to 49 demographic. So your theory was incorrect. I watch both shows at the same time. A lot of people watch both shows at the same time. The problem with AEW is that it isn't trying to present itself to new fans. In order for you to understand what goes on with AEW, I come to realize is that you have to already know the wrestlers. You have to watch Being the Elite for a while, and you have to be in the knowing of what's going on. Hence, when Cody was attacked by this tag team called the Butcher and the Blade with the Bunny, who is actually Ali, the fans really had no reaction. Excalibur had to sit there and explain, like, this is the Butcher. Oh, it's the Butcher. Oh, it's the Blade. And it's like, who? Just like JR said. But the thing is with AEW, and this is the problem that they have since with their weekly television show, is that they're assuming that the fans know who these people are and what's going on. Of course, everybody knows who Jon Moxley is. Everyone knows who Chris Jericho is because of WWE. But people do not know who Ali is. People don't know who the Butcher and the Blade is. People don't really know Orange Cassidy. There is the hardcore fans who know who these wrestlers are. But to fans kind of similar to me, or, fans who just don't watch indies at all, or don't even watch TNA or anything like that, or Ring of Honor or New Japan. They don't know who any of these people are. So I felt as though that the one thing that AEW was doing so great at was their build up to the pay-per-view. They had the time to show these weekly segments on YouTube under the AEW YouTube channel of this is who this wrestler is. This is why you should care about this wrestler. AEW really don't do that anymore because they have this weekly show. Now, Cody, the Elite, and all the other, and Tony Khan are starting to realize the difficulties it is to host a weekly show. You don't have the time to kind of like stop and slow down and kind of like introduce the fans to wrestlers. Now, unfortunately, now we're getting these vignettes of the Dark Order, which kind of makes you want to like the tag team a lot more than when the tag team kind of popped up a couple of months ago with the creepers in the middle of the ring, and you're like, who the hell are these guys? Now that they got these vignettes with the hashtag join the Dark Order, now people are more willing to accept this tag team because they have this like mysterious background, you know, join this cult type of feel to them now. And another thing that AEW kind of have an issue with is that they need to work on having baby faces. They are just starting out, and unfortunately they cannot do what WWE does, and that is to kind of make heels out of almost everyone. They really cannot do these elaborate, you know, characters. For example, this week, Brandy came out with Awesome Kong, and they introduced themselves as the Nightmare Collective. They also have Chris Statlander, who is apparently an alien. We have Leva Bates, who is the librarian. They have a lot of gimmicks with the women's division I'm seeing. And they really shouldn't, because they should just present the women as who they are. They're really, AEW, quite frankly, is on a, they're at a disadvantage because the fans who normally watch WWE do not know who these wrestlers are or why they should care for them. Like I said, you have Cody Rhodes, you have Chris Jericho, you have Jon Moxley, even MJF. They have themselves where people are established and care about them, but unfortunately for the women's division, they're trying to do all these heels and they don't have enough baby faces to really get people to really care for them, like Cody Rhodes and Riho. So I feel as though that AEW should concentrate on introducing their talent to the crowd, you know, especially a new crowd that isn't, you know, the hardcore fans like they are. The issue with NXT is, I've come to realize, NXT really doesn't have a tag team division. They have a lot of stables, like the Undisputed Era with NXT UK. You have Imperium. They have a lot of stables, but they don't have that tag team division that they used to have, where it was the Street Profits. They had the Viking Raiders, DIY, the Revival. Who else? I'm missing a couple of other tag teams. But they had a very strong tag team division, and whereas though they don't have that anymore, so now they're throwing people together, you know, like Keith Lee and Dominic Dijakovic to go against the Undisputed Era tag team of Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. They need to develop their tag team division again. They have a very strong women's division. They have a good men's division. But they don't have a tag team division. Now, on to Raw and Smackdown. I did watch both. I really didn't take too many notes about what happened, because there were some good moments, of course, with these past 2 weeks. We had the moment between Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton that went all over social media with the chops. It seems like they're trying to turn Seth Rollins heel along and put AOP with them. But we get things like this Bobby Lashley and Lana feud, which a lot of people tune into because a lot of people complain about it. It's sort of like you hear about the car crash, you go to slow down to take a look at, the destruction. But it just, like, storyline wise, it don't really make sense to me. Like I always say, what is the payoff for this guy? This, Bobby Lashley has already ran through his wife multiple times, apparently, and got his woman ready to divorce Rusev for as long as they've been together. All it took was for Bobby Lashley to come in with his no eyebrows and say, Rusev's been cheating with no evidence, it seems like. And Lana just, blindly goes along with him, goes to divorce Rusev, put a restraining order against him, call Bobby Lashley the love of her life, my loving boyfriend, and all this other stuff. Putting out bad promos. She's forgetting her lines because of quote unquote Bobby Lashley. And I'm just really trying to find out what is the actual payoff for all this. And it's just like, no, WWE just likes to do these storylines with people's marriages where, the wife runs out on the man, or the wife, puts the man down. The man runs off on the wife, just all these different things. And then we come to Smackdown, where we have Baron Corbin versus Roman Reigns. We have the whole dog food being poured on Roman Reigns, the theme music. Even though I did find it funny at the time because I was live with my son who kind of made fun of it. But, it's but in truth, the little dog theme music, and it seems like we're leading to this whole, I forgot the actual name of the stipulation that was done before. I think it was like a dog howler match or something like that. But the problem with Raw and SmackDown is that they don't have good heels. NXT has good heels, of course. Look at Dakota Kai, look at Tommaso Ciampa, look at, I'm missing one more, Io Shirai. Even when Johnny Gargano went heel, NXT knows how to put out a good heel. With Raw and SmackDown, they don't, I don't know why. The heels come across as like high school bullies, like 10-year-olds. We have Baron Corbin who pours dog food over Roman Reigns. We have Mandy Rose who takes off Alexa Bliss eyelash and call Nikki Cross ugly. It's just, I mean, the only heels that I could think of that even not even true heels. I mean, Shane McMahon was a pretty good heel, but he had more of the going away type of heat. Baron Corbin had the going away type of heat, but WWE seems to miss the mark on creating really good heels. In order for you to have a very good feud, for the fans to really care for a wrestler, for a babyface, you have to have a really good heel. Now, of course, the kids are going to go crazy, for this match for Roman Reigns. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like whenever these heels do these type of things where they're doing this high school bully thing, if I feel like I'm being dumbed down or something like that. There's no like intellectual thinking as far as the way the heels work. I mean, look at Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. That was one of the best feuds that NXT has ever put out. Look at Sasha Banks and Bayley, that type of feud. You don't really get those type of feuds, with Raw and SmackDown. Now, granted, we got it at WrestleMania where it was Seth Rollins versus, Brock Lesnar. We had Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey and Charlotte. We had Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan. It seems like WWE can make a pretty good heel, but it's just like, I feel maybe they're too lazy to be consistent with it. Because they have the makings to make a pretty good heel. I mean, look at Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan was on the money as far as being the heel. Even Brock Lesnar was pretty good as far as kind of being a heel as well. But it's just like, I don't know, they just missed the mark with them trying to create a pretty good heel. But I'm happy that we have all these options with wrestling. We have, NWA, which announced very recently that Wade Barrett, Bad News Barrett, is coming on to NWA, I believe, as a commentator. He is replacing Jim Cornette, so Stu Bennett, aka formerly known as Wade Barrett, Bad News Barrett, will be replacing Jim Cornette as a commentator, which I can't wait for. I'm very happy for Mr. Stu Bennett. Wow, I really need to get my words correct. But yeah, with NWA, they have to get the word out there, about their show. They're doing pretty good as far as word of mouth with all the podcasters talking about it. Everyone's tweeting about it, word of mouth of how they're getting their views. But I feel like they have to do something else too to kind of get more viewership out there. But, they're small. They realize that they are small. They're treating themselves as if they're small, and they're not trying to do anything, they're not trying to be like WWE, for example. And I feel like AEW is trying to kind of get like WWE. But the thing with AEW is they tend to have audio issues. They tend to have these camera angles that are pretty weird as well. A lot of issues as far as production. And I feel like you can't take shots at WWE if you're going to turn around and make mistakes worse than WWE. And I do say worse because there's nothing worse than having production issues, unable to hear music. For example, this past week on AEW Dynamite, the theme music sounded like it was coming out of a radio when I think it was Ray Phoenix coming out to face Trent from the Best Friends. His theme music sounded like it was coming out of a radio. But the one thing I do like, and I'm not sitting here trying to bash AEW all night. I do love the fact that AEW is small enough that they can connect to the fans. Cody Rhodes was cutting a promo and he had Justin Roberts bring up a suitcase full of money to kind of, tell the Butcher and the Blade that, he's willing to give up whatever to have a fight with them. And it was a suitcase of money, real money apparently. I think it was $50,000 or $40,000. And Cody Rhodes took out a $100 bill and gave it to this little kid that was in the crowd. There was a tweet that was sent out, I believe, maybe 2 or 3 days ago. It was a guy who mentioned, it was a father who mentioned that he took his son out of an abusive home. And, and nothing made his son happier than watching AEW Dynamite. And Cody was like, "Oh, where are you from? Let us know when we're there." And I believe the father said that they were just announced for January, I believe it is. And Cody Rhodes was like, "Oh, send me your info. Kid will get free tickets. And the kid will get to meet some of the wrestlers, myself included," which is pretty cool. I love things like that. I love the fact that AEW, recognizes that, there can't be, they won't be anything without the fans, that the fans be treated to things just because they are fans, not to, anything special or special events, stuff like that. but that things happen to regular fans just because they're tuning in as well. Looking at everything that happened this week in wrestling, it was kind of average, in my opinion. NXT was pretty good, I have to say, but overall this week was kind of average, kind of on the bad side with what happened on SmackDown and Raw. The very good thing that happened on SmackDown was the segment between The Miz and Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt bringing up the fact that he used to have a family. And a lot of people have pointed out that this is a continuation from a previous segment between The Miz and Bray Wyatt when Bray Wyatt was back with the Wyatt family. And I kind of appreciate that there's a lot of continuation from a lot of things that happened with Bray Wyatt when he was with the Wyatt family. But Bray Wyatt mentioned how he used to have a family and, now he can have one. And he showed a picture of Maryse, the Miz's wife, and the Miz's two daughters as well, which leads to the Miz storming backstage. He calls Maryse to kind of warn her to secure the home. He sees a red light glowing with the portrait inside, so it looked like it was the set of the Firefly Funhouse. And Bray Wyatt attacked the Miz, which was very interesting because we haven't really seen Bray Wyatt outside the Firefly Funhouse, WWE wise anyway. Bray Wyatt himself has done a lot of media outlets. Of course, you probably saw it all over YouTube and Twitter of him, doing the weather, him being interviewed by anchors at different TV stations, and the anchors feeling a little uncomfortable because Bray Wyatt is being Bray Wyatt from the Firefly Funhouse. But very interesting that Bray Wyatt attacked The Miz instead of The Fiend, which kind of leads to people believing that we may get The Miz versus Bray Wyatt and The Fiend versus Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan did not show up on SmackDown this past week, so people don't know really what to expect. Hopefully he'll show up next Friday to kind of give a bit of an update of the feud before we head into TLC. But that's it for the WrestleBread podcast. This is a bit of a shorter episode. I really didn't want to get too deep into everything that happened this week because it really wasn't anything too exciting that hopped out. I really wanted to kind of talk about, the issues that I have as far as not enough heels, and not enough good heels in WWE and, in WWE with, Raw and SmackDown, and not enough baby faces with AEW, and AEW not really, not showing the fans who don't know much about the wrestlers who are in AEW a reason for them to care as well. And that NXT kind of has not a lot of tag teams as they used to, but NXT is doing pretty well. Keith Lee is still continuing to shine. The women's division is pretty much the number one division in all of wrestling, I would have to say. They have the best women's division. Anytime a woman turns heel, have suddenly gotten hotter with some awesome theme music and a heck of a better look. With Dakota Kai, I have to give props to whoever thought of this. Dakota Kai's new theme music includes Tegan Nox screaming for when Dakota Kai attacked her at NXT TakeOver War Games, which is, fantastic heel work, I have to say. And of course, Dakota Kai walks out with Tegan Nox knee brace as well. And her hair is out. She has the dark makeup. She's wearing, she still wears the same gear from what I remembered. I believe she wore gray this week. Between her and Io Shirai, when Io Shirai turned heel, oh my gosh, I love her. I love her theme music. Scary Mask is my favorite song. I didn't know about Poppy until NXT put Poppy's song Scary Mask with Io Shirai on YouTube. If you haven't seen that video, just YouTube Io Shirai Scary Mask or NXT Scary Mask. I don't know exactly how it's worded, but the song matches perfectly with Io Shirai's gimmick. Who else? Rhea Ripley. I'm missing someone else. Even when Sasha Banks went heel in NXT, it made her a lot better. I'm just waiting. I just can't wait for when, Candice LeRae turns heel, Toni Storm turns heel. Let's just turn everyone heel. Mia Yim, when she turns heel, oh my goodness. I just can't wait for all these women to turn heel, even if they turn back babyface, but it's just like, I don't know who is behind these ideas as far as, when this person turns heel, this is what they're going to wear. This is their new music. This is how you're going to act. It's like, can you do this also with Raw and SmackDown too? Because when Charlotte turned heel, Charlotte still looked the same, still had the same music and everything. Bayley, when she turned heel, she got the, may I speak to your manager haircut, and she has the, discount, Dwayne The Rock Johnson theme music as well. Who else had turned heel? Alexa Bliss. When Alexa Bliss turned heel in NXT, oh my goodness, it was the top of her game. But now that when she turns heel or face in a WWE Raw or SmackDown, it's pretty much the same thing. She still has the same theme music, the same look. It's just like nothing's different. There's no difference between when someone turns heel and when someone turns face. Look at Big Show. Big Show turned heel and face when the wind blew. So I like the fact that NXT kind of, put a difference to when someone is a heel and when someone's a face. Kind of went off a tangent there because I was trying to end the podcast, but I just really wanted to get out the fact that NXT really makes great heels, I have to say. But I can't wait till Candice LeRae and Toni Storm turns heel because, oh my gosh. People are going to melt when those two women turn heel too. But like I said, that's it for the WrestleBread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Sorry this is a shorter episode, but I had a pretty busy weekend. Saturday I had to work and then had to take care of a bunch of stuff. And then Sunday, my company had a big holiday party and I have to be at work tomorrow by 7 a.m. So it's 9:00 right now on the Sunday night that I'm recording this. And, I have to get to bed soon so I can wake up uber early in the morning after a night of eating and drinking. But I didn't drink that much, thank goodness. I was smart about it this time. But let me give my shout outs. Shout out to Julian and Rob Bass from the Wrestling Court Podcast on AttorneyMinds.com, Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show, Chris from We Talk Next Podcast, Nando and Larry from KFK Podcast, and Devin and Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling Podcast. Next week, we have NWA's pay-per-view Into the Fire on Saturday the 14th. We also have TLC coming up next Sunday. Not that many matches have been announced, and according to the rumor, they probably won't get announced to an hour beforehand. So I will do my best with giving out predictions. Maybe I'll predict what matches will be coming out and the possible winners from that, but hopefully we'll get a good pay-per-view. I don't know. The fact that no matches really have been announced, it's kind of hard for a pay-per-view to be pretty good when things kind of come together the last minute. But to hear my predictions, and I will be tweeting live during TLC, I may check out NWA Into the Fire. I'm not 100% sure. But if I do, you can hop on Twitter and follow me at Jaydee Talks, Jaydee Talks. I tweet live during TLC pay-per-view. Any WWE pay-per-view, I tweet live during Raw and SmackDown. And I also tweet live during the Wednesday Night Wars. Like I said, I normally watch both shows at the same time, so I'll be tweeting about what goes on between both shows, or I may watch one show over the other, but still read people's tweets of what's going on in the other show. Be sure to follow the podcast on Twitter as well at WrestleBread. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you feel about heels on Raw and SmackDown and the lack of baby faces on AEW, and what other issues that you have with WWE and AEW, and good things that you like about WWE and AEW, because all this is for the benefit of us. I hope, like I said, I hope AEW, try to do better. I hope NXT try to do better, because the winner is us, guys. Let's not try to fight over who is better than what, and just appreciate the fact that we have two companies fighting for our attention. Until next time, guys, peace.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Check us out at WrestleBread.com and subscribe to WrestleBread on YouTube for more breaking news and Jaydee's opinions.